Start again. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I don't hear good morning back.
Good morning.
There we go. Very nice.
You gotta get us retrained, Jerry.
So I could have said, "Can I hear you?" But that's a little too early in the morning, maybe. All right, can't hear you. I do not have, I don't know if Mark Campos signed in yet. He is our inspiration today. Does anyone else have a few words of inspiration for us today to start off our meeting early in the morning? Margot is formulating some thoughts, and she will be up here in 2 seconds.
Always.
She is always prepared, which is the way to be. For a distinguished Toastmaster, that is the example to follow. Thank you, Margot.
No problem. I've been told I'm prepared for anything. Anyway, one tree can start a forest. One smile can begin a friendship. One hand can lift a soul. One word can frame a goal. One candle can wipe out darkness. One laugh can conquer gloom. One hope can raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One life can make a difference. Please be that one today. Mr. President.
Thank you, Margot, for stepping up. Appreciate that. Let's do the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. So at the beginning of our meetings, we like to go over who's in the room and who's online. So in the room, we have Carol Ann Halstead, Jackie Kenny, Nancy Ferry, Sylvia Baptiste, Joe Budnack, Mike Licata, Tracy Farrell, Margot Bittner, Beth Banks, Tom Heldwine, Marty Johnston, Mike Hayes, and Dave Licata, and of course Len on the tech. Online, we have Jen Zappa, Kate, Nancy Rose, Eric Schneider, and of course, our Toastmaster, David Jones. Take it away, David.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My theme today is balloons. And when I picked balloons last week, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. I just had to pick a theme and start working on it. And if you're like me, if you think about balloons, you think about parties, weddings, events, and balloons are a big part of our lives. It's an odd product to be a big part of our life, but almost everybody has or had balloons or deals with balloons on a regular basis. And there is a history to balloons. It goes back to ancient Greece when they would take animal bladders and blow them up. And even the Aztecs, they would take cat intestines, blow them up, and make different figurines, I guess, and sacrifice them to the gods. And I don't know if they actually made animal balloons like this, but nobody knows. And when I think about this history, I think it was pretty much a guy thing. I don't see women taking animal parts and seeing if they could blow them up and have fun with them. I think that is strictly guys doing guy things, really weird stuff. And that's how we came into balloons. In fact, the first balloon was recorded in 1824 in London by a college professor who was doing an experiment, and he came up with the balloons. And then it was not until 1950 when we had our first water balloon. Again, it was another professor who was filling up a water balloon, got frustrated, threw it against a wall, and he thought that was kind of cool. And he kind of went with that, and that was his way of having fun. Then we moved into the hot air balloons. Now, hot air balloons came about in the 1790s when we first went up into the air balloons with humans. And it was 100 years later, in 1890, when we got into weather balloons and we got into blimps. But there was a progression of small balloons to big balloons. Now, if you're like most people, balloons give you imagination. For instance, Disney Pixar's, if you get enough balloons, you can just literally relocate your house. But also, balloons can be scary. If you come across a scary clown with a balloon, maybe you should not go and chat with him. Now, the most scariest thing, especially if you're a parent and you've been to Disney, is a cast member with the Disney balloons, because they cost an arm and a leg, and the kids are going to either pop them or let them go. So balloons have become a big part of our lives. Even into New York with the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It was back in 1927 when the first balloon came about. Does anybody know what the first balloon was in 1927 for Macy's Day Parade? Couldn't hear you, but it was Felix the cat. Looks like he was only about 15 feet tall, but back then I'm sure that was really a big deal. Now, unfortunately, if you're like me, you've seen some really bad things on the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Me and millions of people watched live when they euthanized Barney. The winds were really strong and they had to take him down in front of millions of kids and families. And that's the story of my balloons. I'm going to go ahead and start with our roll keepers. And if you all have any interesting balloon stories, I don't really have any interesting balloon stories, so I'm going to leave it up to you all. But we're going to start back with our president, who is going to be our word master of the day. And Dr. Stevens, take it away.
Thank you, David. Our word of the day comes courtesy of breakfast the other day from Phil Russell. Curmudgeon, he said it in normal conversation. I was impressed with that, so I immediately made a mental note and I looked it up because I didn't know what it meant. It means to a crusty, ill-tempered, usually old man, but I will expand that to people. So hopefully we don't have a bunch of curmudgeons here this morning when they're providing reports. So curmudgeon is the word of the day. Also means miser, by the way, so we can use it in a couple different ways. So use it as much as you can today, and I will be making note for later in the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Curmudgeon, that's a word that can get anybody in trouble. Therefore, I am not even going to attempt to go there with it. And next up is going to be our awe master, Nancy Rose, here on Zoom, I believe. Nancy, you want to explain your role? You're on mute. And you're still on mute, Nancy.
Sorry about that. Okay. Greetings, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster and guests. The purpose of the odd counter is to note any words and sounds that are used as a crutch or a pause filter by anyone who speaks. I'll be keeping track of words including and, well, but, and sounds such as ums, ahs, yes, yes, and I'll report back at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Master. And our grammarian is Chris de Gloppler Banks. I hope I pronounced that right. Chris, do you want to tell us about your role?
Not here.
She's not there, so she's not going to tell us about our role. Anybody want to step up and be our grammarian? Our master, would you like to double roll and listen for awesome words and quotes? And
Yes.
okay, perfect. And I just explained her role to us. Nancy will be our grammarian and master. And our quote master, is he there? I didn't hear his name in the beginning. Toastmaster Ging.
I'm not seeing Jason today. I'm not usually online.
No, he's not on either. We will move on to our jester, and that is Marty. He stepped the last minute, and Marty can triple duty. He can maybe give us an awesome quote, a jest, and one of my favorite things at AM Lockport is the toast. So Marty, could you give us a toast and all sorts of good things?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day, David. Nice to see you this morning. Nice to see everyone else. I didn't bring my cup up, but however, I will make a toast. Here's to new beginnings at AM Lockport, and all the best to our new club president, Gerald Stevens, as he leads us to another successful Toastmaster year. Thank you, Thomas. Speaking of successful Toastmasters, thank you, Thomas. And look forward to the growth of our new members, especially our newest member, Mike Hayes. Hear, hear. As far as my joke, you may say that I am a curmudgeon because I really like original jokes, and I think I'm much like my father in that regard, who passed away a few years ago. He would always he would refinish a joke or give his own angle. So I think I'm in his shoes in that regard. Anyway, I did look up something on Google because I didn't have any original material. So here it goes. A man is flying in a hot air balloon and realizes he is lost. He reduces height and spots a man below. He lowers the balloon further and shouts, "Excuse me, can you tell me where I am?" The man below says, "Yes, you're in a hot air balloon hovering 30 feet above this field. You must be an engineer." As my screen goes blank, says the balloonist. "I am," the man replies. "How did you know?" "Well," said the balloonist, "everything you told me is technically correct, but it's no use to anyone." The man below says, "You must be in management." "I am," replied the balloonist. "How do you know?" "Well," says the man, "you don't know where you are or where you're going, but you expect me to help you out. You're in the same position you were before we met, but now it's my fault." Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Marty. Appreciate it. And a balloonist. I guess there are titles for everything and everybody, so I like the balloonist. Next up is going to be our timer, Carol Ann. Is Carol Ann there to explain her role?
This morning, I will be timing the table topics, speeches, and evaluations. Table topics is 1.5 to 2 minutes, 15-second buffer, green at 1 minute 30, yellow at 1:45, red at 2 minutes. The speeches are usually 5 to 7, with a green light at 5, yellow 6, and red at 7. 30-second buffer. Evaluations 2 to 3, with 30-second buffer, green at 2, yellow at 2:30, and red at 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Timer. And our next role is, I believe, a new role. Kate, is tech and gesture a new role since the pandemic, or is that something you always had?
This is Kate. I am our tech and gesture master. So the evolution of that, for anybody who doesn't know, most clubs don't have a gesture master or a tech master. Some years ago, I think it was Charlie or Les Sigarnik saw a gesture master in his travels to another club somewhere. And we added the gesture master in because body language and facial expressions are such an integral part of speaking. And then, yes, when we moved to Zoom, we combined a body language and facial expressions with our use of audio and visual technology. And I'll keep track of all of that and be only slightly curmudgeonly when I give a report at the end. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
And thank you, Toastmaster Kate. And we're almost getting there. Toastmaster Nancy, you want to tell us about your Quizmaster role?
You, Mr. Toastmaster. I used curmudgeon all the time when I was a kid because it was a family word. We had some curmudgeons in our family, so I think that's why it became such a fun word. My job and role today will be to listen, and I hope you will be listening because at the end I will offer a quiz. It will be short, but it might be tricky. So put on your curmudgeon-y ears and we will look for those at the end. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you much. And finally, our general evaluator, Toastmaster Tracy, do you want to explain your role and what you're going to be doing?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My job as general evaluator will be to evaluate the entire meeting as a whole and especially the evaluators. I'm going to add a new role to our Toastmasters Day as I'm going to be the curmudgeon reporter. So anybody that acts like a curmudgeon, I will report back at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Perfect. Thank you. And I don't know if he wanted to share it or if he wanted me to share it or not, but Marty said he had an original balloon joke, but it got away from him. Next up, I get to take a break and turn it over to our table topics master, Margot Sue Bittner. Take it away.
Morning again, everyone. So my youngest child, David, went away to camp. He and his sister went to Camp Lakeland, a Jewish camp. I think they're going to get all these wonderful Jewish values, be away for 2 weeks. It's going to be great, right? I got a letter in the mail that said, "Dear Mom, send me water balloons." Who knew? So you mentioned water balloons earlier. I did not send him any balloons, but it turned out, according to my daughter, that David and his campmates, somebody did have balloons, had an epic water balloon fight. So I'm looking at my list here and we don't have a lot of people without roles. So I was wondering, Thomas. I know. See, you thought you didn't have to get up here today. Thomas, do you have any epic water balloon stories or stories about balloons with your kids?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Water balloons usually create a curmudgeon out of somebody. They usually are not happy about it. And I looked it up, and the female term for curmudgeon is termagant.
Save that one.
I say Karen. You know, it's an easier term. You're a Karen. I'm sorry if anyone is named Karen. If anyone ever sees this and your name is Karen, my apologies. Water balloons usually get out of hand very quickly, which is why I think when we had children, we avoided them. The worst thing I ever saw was at a school where they had them in a barrel, which meant the largest, strongest kids got to smash their way to the front and just start taking them and this pelting people who were right behind them, also trying to get water balloons. I didn't understand it. I would have done it like an Easter thing where you spread them out all over the field and then everyone has to run out and get them. What I want to talk about balloons though is there are entertainment reasons for them, but there's an actual medical use for a balloon. I had a procedure where if you have GERD or acid reflux, the cartilage rings in your esophagus will actually shrink down to keep it from happening anymore. The problem is they're the size of a pencil, so you can't swallow anything bigger than a pencil. And just to show, I think I can do it on the camera, which everyone will be able to see up here. So that was my innards. Yes, you get to see my inner self. Well, they put a tube down there and with a balloon, and they expand the balloon and crack the cartilage ring. And that is how that procedure is done. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Now, did you know you use balloons in food? How many people keep balloons in their kitchen other than me? Nobody? I mean, think about it. If you want to make a perfect chocolate bowl, you melt your chocolate, blow up the balloon, dip it in the chocolate, wait for the chocolate to set, and it just peels right off. So I'm going to ask our foodie Dave. Hi, Dave. Can you think of a use for balloons? Or, since I mentioned chocolate, something with chocolate? Please help me welcome David Licata. You're welcome.
Strangely enough, Margot, Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, no guess. There's been a spate of food shows that I've just encountered randomly, and they're using huge balloons and making huge chocolate this and that, exactly like you said. But in the true tradition of deflecting the subject, a very long time ago, I was returning to base camp, Licata Brothers Wholesale, after a day of out making sales calls, and I'm going down the road, and I went to make a left turn, so I had to slow down. I was on a nice big 55-mile-an-hour thoroughfare, but now I got to make a left, and I had to slow down. And I look out in this field, and there's this little balloon, all tired out. It's helium depleted. It's just doing little dribble drabble bounces. And because I'm not a curmudgeon, in spite of what's been said here this morning, I got out of the car and I retrieved the balloon, and there was a note. If you find this balloon, please call the so-and-so such and such elementary school, Mississauga, Ontario. So these kindergarten kids up there in the Great White North had let this balloon go. I called the school up and I said, well, I hate to put a damper on things, but you know, as things stand, as the crow flies, we're only 45 miles away. And she said, 45 miles is a long way for a kindergarten kid. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Dave. And we both know you're never a curmudgeon in the winery. You have too much fun telling the ghost story. So I need one more person, and we can't make it an all-guys show. So I read another hint online that if you're going somewhere where there's water, you put your phone in a balloon and tie the balloon shut, and it's supposed to protect your phone. I don't know if that's really true. Our techie might be able to tell that. But Beth, I know you've got all kinds of unusual things that you do and crafts. So can you think of an unusual use for balloons? And don't forget to use the word curmudgeon.
I think I'm a female version of curmudgeon. Some days my certain kids will certainly say that. How you pronounce it, I don't know, whatever you said. A use for balloons. Well, at the festival, we use balloons because we have the balloon guy. So he comes and he makes all kinds of different animals and whatever. So he has a good time. The kids have a good time. It's really good. Water balloons, my grandchildren they had a party last August for Jackie. And all of a sudden there were these balloons showing up. A few kids, they were having a great old time. Like, where are they getting these balloons from? Because they weren't going in the house. So I followed them. And it ended up, there was a faucet. We're all still learning where everything is in Jackie's house. She's been there 2.5 years, but we're learning. Oh, those kids were having a good time. But when you mentioned something about the big guy coming and getting well, that's what was happening there. The two bigger boys were filling the balloons and then just staying there and waiting for the young kids to come so they could keep the balloon at them there. So balloons, uses for balloons. Yes, that's what we have done. Uses for balloons. I do appreciate that balloons are used medically. I think that's a wonderful thing. It always amazes me what the doctors can come up with. Thank you.
Now I'm going to call for reports. So who's getting up first? Carol or Gerald? Who's getting up first? Gerald's on the move. So Carol, you're next. So how did our word do with our table topics participants?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. For our table topics participants, all of them used the word today. Tom, Dave, and Beth. Good job, table topics participants.
Thank you. All right, and Carol, your turn. How did timing do?
Everyone did well. Thomas at 2:09, Dave at not quite 2 minutes, and Beth at 1:46.
All right. Thank you very much. Everyone did qualify. I'll let everyone take their vote, and I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day, David Jones. All yours, Dave.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move into our speeches, and I'm going to call up our first evaluator, Jackie Kenny. I am looking at the agenda, and unfortunately, there's a couple people that do not have their information filled out. I don't know if Jackie's has titles and information for us, but we will find out in a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I decided that I was probably evaluating Marty Johnston, who's the alternate speaker. And he is working in the leadership development path. His project is to manage successful events, which he will tell us about in 5 to 7 minutes. He spent time learning to coordinate an event, planning, organizing, and implementing that event to manage the unexpected, lead a team, and create positive outcomes. Do you have his title, Mr. Toastmaster?
I do, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And I apologize for that misstep. I thought Dave Licata signed up again as speaker in the middle of the night. So I asked Marty to move around, but I do have his speech title as a successful Lockport charitable event. So please welcome Marty.
Marty, I was the alternate, and then I was messaged that Dave Licata was speaking.
Yes, because David did sign up in the middle of the night as the speaker again, because he had dropped it and then he signed back up. So that's a little confusion. I apologize. He is on the agenda right now as the speaker today.
Go up there again. All right. I'm gonna read my goal.
Yes, you know what? I'll do that.
Perfect.
David, take a moment. David Licata is going to give us a speech written with purpose. And he's trying to review basic methods for writing a speech. I wonder how he'll do with a defined purpose and to present a well-organized speech on any topic. He's going to do that, I suppose, in 5 to 7 minutes, although I don't, oh, there it is, 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm sure you have his title. No?
I have
We're
nothing.
going to now hear David with, I got nothing. David Licata, I got nothing.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. In my long experience as a Toastmaster in general, in my long experience as a member of AM Lockport in particular, I'm always kind of fascinated because it happens over and over and over again. So you inquire, gee, Fred, Mabel, whoever, I see you're on the agenda next week to speak. And the response is, I got nothing. I got nothing. I don't know what to speak about. That mystifies me. Of course, everybody that knows me knows that I have plenty to say. You know, just give me a topic. It's not a problem. As my son Mike said, as he gave that memorable speech one day, he started out, he said, my dad's a cartoon. So he knows that I'm always ready to go and try to entertain. But we do hear that response, well, gee, I got nothing. So a long time ago and far away, when we're meeting at the Best Western, I actually walked in with a duffel bag full of books from the Dave Licata Public Speaking Library located in my home. So I had the book, The Great Quotations. I had the book, The Great Anecdotes. I had the book, Shakespeare and Management, how you could look at a Shakespeare play and get management ideas out of it. I also brought in the book, The Great Quotations of Shakespeare. And then another book, The Real Meaning of those quotations and explaining why they were important to the plot. And that enabled me to springboard into many different directions and hopefully come up with an entertaining speech. So when you find yourself in that position where you have to say to yourself, I got nothing, you probably have something right in your own home that you can use as a means to propel you towards a successful speech. Now, if you don't have the library, I can't think of a better opportunity in this day and age, and to give my age away in a curmudgeonly fashion. Many of us in the, well, a few, many of us, a few of us in this room, it was 2, 4, and 7, folks. Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7. Now we have 6 bajillion streaming services. We have no idea what to watch. In my Christmas stocking, I was presented with a little pouch of dice that you roll, and it says drama, half hour, full hour movie, and you put the dice together and decide what you're going to pick off that extremely crazy streaming menu. My point being, it wouldn't hurt any of us to get free advice on what to watch with all these different opportunities that we are presented with today. It's crazy. And these streaming services, there's no end to their money. So when they do a series now, it's just incredible because they don't spare a dime. The costumes, the locations, the talent. So we really need some help because there's just so many opportunities. Members of AM Lockport are extremely fortunate. There's absolutely no excuse to say, I got nothing. If you've been in this club long enough and you've heard our travel guide, Dr. Gerald Stevens. And rather than sit there and say, oh, darn, I haven't been as many places as Dr. Jer, well, you've been someplace and you can give a speech about that. Don't be shy. Don't be hesitant. What I've refrained to do in my career in AM Lockport Toastmasters is I do everything possible not to talk about sporting events, because I've been through the mill, the ringer. I have arranged with the Buffalo Bills organization that upon my demise, 6 of them will come down. 6 players will be my pallbearers so they can let me down one more time. So I choose not to go on sports because, you know, half the audience, probably more than half the audience, doesn't share my boundless insanity enthusiasm for the Buffalo Bills or even the Sabres. And give a speech on a situation. And don't use real names. And another thing about life, laugh and the world laughs with you. Cry and you cry alone. So if you have some kind of soap opera going on in your life, change the names. It can still be entertaining. It can still be a source for a speech. And don't be afraid to share your plans. Tell us where you're headed, what you see in your future. That can be fodder for a speech as well. Of course, we are reminded that if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Dave. Appreciate it. And next up is going to be Toastmaster Jen, who's going to evaluate Joe. And I'm not sure if you have his information, but unfortunately, it's not on the agenda as well. Take it away, Jen.
Thank you, David. Yes, I in fact do have Joe's information. Joe is going to be speaking from the Engaging with Humor pathway today. He is giving his icebreaker speech. So Joe's been a member of our club for quite a long time. However, he'd taken a bit of a hiatus and just recently come back to AM Lockport. Sorry, I'm just looking for Joe's title to his speech now because I know I have it. He did send it to me. He is going to be giving a 4 to 6 minute speech for our timer today. And his speech title is The Many Uses of Humor, Joe Budnick.
Thank you, Jen. Before I begin, everyone, please help yourself to my mom's wonderful chocolate chip cookies over there. Thank you. So humor does have many uses. Some people, everybody has different senses of humor. Some people have a lighthearted, some people have a sarcastic sense of humor. And then of course we know people that have no sense of humor at all. I think we've all had to deal with that at times. And then we've had to deal with people who think they're being funny, think they have a sense of humor, but in actuality, they don't. We've had to deal with that too. But it can be a very useful tool when working. I've substitute taught for many years, and I was just recently fortunate enough to get a full-time job working at Charles Upson as a teacher's aide. And I found that using humor in a classroom can be a very valuable tool. You come in sometimes when I'm subbing and the kids don't know you. If I can get them to smile and laugh, they see that I'm approachable, they see I'm not a curmudgeon, and they relax. And it makes the day go by faster. Of course, you know, the kids really don't want to be in school, they have to be there. But if you can laugh a little bit and you can smile, it makes the day go by faster and it makes it go by easier. Of course, it has to be appropriate. We're not there to be silly. We're not there to be laughing and giggling all day long. There has to be a fine line between being able to smile and enjoy yourself and the classroom just erupting in complete and total chaos. We have to make sure that we do that too, don't do that too. Humor, I've also found, can be very good at diffusing a situation. I've worked in group home for kids where kids have, unfortunately, they have anger issues. Sometimes if a kid is in crisis or having a bad day or angry, upset, sometimes getting them to smile and laugh can diffuse the situation. They see that I'm not mad. They see I'm on their side. They see, you know what, you're having a bad day, but we can turn this around. Smile a little bit and let's take a time out and try again. But of course it has to be, like I said, appropriate. Obviously, if the kid is on the floor screaming and yelling or throwing furniture, threatening to kill himself and everybody else in the room, obviously cracking a joke is not exactly the most prudent form of action, obviously. You have to use it the right way. But I've used humor in speeches when I talk about my work experience working with kids. Like there are certain incidents that have happened to me when working in a classroom that it wasn't funny then, but you can laugh, fortunately, you can laugh at it now. Like for example, when I was subbing in, where was it? It was Emmett Belknap. I was working with middle schoolers, and middle schoolers think they're funny when they're not. Trust me. I hand out these assignments to the students and I said, okay, so this is what your teacher would like you to do. And I put it in front of this one kid. Okay, so this is your assignment, just do your best. No, make me. I wanted to string the kid up by his toenails from the ceiling and get a big stick and use him as a piñata, but I'm sure I would have had CPS after me if I did that. Well, it wasn't funny then, but I can laugh at it now. And the last year, as I've been working at Charles Upson, we had this one young man in our class. He's 5 years old. He's a little motor mouth. He doesn't know when to shut up. He doesn't know when to sit down. He doesn't know when to be quiet. He's like Speedy Gonzalez. I asked one of the other workers in the room, does he have an ADHD diagnosis? Nobody needs one. By the end of the year, we were all of us in the classroom were ready to invent some new and unusual uses for duct tape. But like I said, it wasn't funny then, but you can laugh at it now. And the Reader's Digest, if you ever read that book, has an article saying laughter the best medicine. That really is true. When someone's not well or someone's not having a bad day, laughing can usually diffuse the situation and make them feel better. So use humor appropriately, use it often, and use it to make someone's day brighter. If you can make someone smile or make someone laugh, it makes your day better too, as well as that person. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Toastmaster Joe, appreciate it. And our third evaluator has an easy job because all the information is on the agenda for Mike Licata and his speaker as Sylvia. Mike, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. This morning, Sylvia is working on the Innovation Planning Level 3, present the proposal. Madam Timer, her time is 5 to 7 minutes, and you do have the title because everything made everything easy. So
Yes, sir. Thank you. And her title is 49 Tremont Street, which I believe is where most of you are at. So Sylvia, please take it away.
Welcome, everyone. How are you this morning? Doing pretty good? Good. Thank you for allowing me to do this presentation. And it is a proposal that was done back in 2016 for a building renovation. So the YWCA of Niagara Frontier is requesting funding at the time, in 2016, for development of the 49 Tremont Street project. This is what the project looks like. We would like to renovate this project, make it into single unit apartments for women, low-income domestic violence victims. Let me tell you a little bit about the YWCA. Some of you may not know. We have a comprehensive domestic violence crisis services. We have crisis service housing, transitional housing that is called, and we have now, hopefully, permanent housing. That's the project that we're proposing. We also have preschool, universal preschool, school-age child care programs, and summer youth programs. So that is who we are. But a little bit about this project. This project, 49 Tremont, is downtown historical North Tonawanda. It is right near the Riviera Theater, and you can see it right from there. And what we're doing is a 12-unit single apartments, studio apartments for low income. This will also house offices, one office actually, caseworker, and also have laundry facility in there, exercise, and an ample green space outside. Also, this project, we're hoping, it should, COVID has done many strange things to us. We're doing workforce development again. We're having a coffee shop, looking at David Licata coffee shop. So we're having a coffee shop with baked goods. And this will help the women who want to go back into work, learn a little bit about the skills, life skills, and have opportunities to work there if they wish, or go into restaurant businesses. Currently, like I said, this is what the building looks like.
It is a wood frame building located, like I said, downtown historical North Tonawanda. Original single structure home built in 1893. Then in the 1930s, they added on more to the building, making it more livable for the owner. And then in the 1950s, they've added a gymnasium. The cost of this project is a little over $4 million. And you're going to say, where are you coming up with the funding for this? Well, there's many different funders. We have the homeless housing, New York State Homes and Community Renewal Loans, Housing Trust Fund, community investments, and of course, our local foundations have seen that this project is needed. Today, this is what the building looks like. As you can tell, a lot of updates, a lot of windows, really great. And as of next Thursday, we will have a ribbon cutting. This project is done. It has finally survived the COVID construction. It has finally survived funding that was put on hold because people thought we couldn't do it. COVID. Things have changed with COVID. You can't do anything without trying to get people I don't even know what I say, trying to get people back to their office to work. It is awful. New York State, they're still not at work. They're still working from their homes because you can hear the kids in the background screaming or the dog barking. It's kind of funny. But as I went off track, I'm sorry about that. We got to go off tinsy on New York State at times. This project will have the ribbon cutting next week, like I said, 1 o'clock at 49 Tremont, downtown historical area of North Tonawanda. And we're hoping it's going to be as successful as our other housing. And the other housing we have is 19 units at Carolyn's house on 6th Street in Niagara Falls. We have emergency shelter here in Lockport, 3 transitional houses, upper and lower apartments, and 1 in Tonawanda, Erie County. Does anyone have any questions, concerns? Marty, 49 Tremont Street, North Tonawanda.
What is the organization name that sponsors that?
YWCA of Niagara Frontier. It is our building. We own it. We did a merger with the Tonawandas back in, I think it was 14, 15. And because of Niagara County is shrinking, unfortunately, we've armed forces with Tonawandas, YW. And we did a collaboration. I won't say takeover, it's a collaboration. Yes, Marty.
Is there a shortage of temporary housing for women in Lockport?
Temporary, actually, this is going to be permanent housing. So it is a shortage. We have no permanent housing for low-income women. And some of them will be working, not making a lot of money. Some will be on SSI or social services. 8 of the apartments, though, are designated for domestic violence victims. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sylvia. Appreciate it. And can we get a timers report from Carol Ann on our speakers?
Dave Licata made time at 6:42. Joe Budnick, 4:34. Sylvia did go over at 7:38, but I don't know if she was making, if the questions were included in your speech. So, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, if the questions were a little bit of an add-on, so I guess we'll say everyone made time.
Thank you, Madam Timer. Appreciate it. Unfortunately, we are running a little ahead of schedule, which will give me time to ask a few of our members some questions that haven't participated today, starting with Mark. And Mark, you didn't hear my opening comments or see my slides, but I wanted to know, since you're a dad and I've seen you've been to Orlando, if you escaped this, did you, when you went to Disney, did you have to buy balloons for the kids, or did you get away from that very large investment?
Mr. Toastmaster, thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I want to, before I begin, I need to thank Margot for pinch hitting for me this morning, since I clearly had an issue with my lamp, as Jen thought it was, or my laptop in reality. But I don't recall getting roped into the balloon issue in Orlando, but I was thinking about this because I expected to be a target during table topics, and balloons are not something I really spend a lot of mental energy thinking about, quite honestly. But I thought about this. So often when you go to a restaurant, somebody's there making balloon animals for the kids. I think of Ship and Shore used to have that in Lockport. I haven't been there in years, but in any event, when I turned 50, I went out to Vegas with a bunch of my buddies, and we went out to dinner one night at this place, Carlos and Charlie's in the Flamingo, Mexican place. And as fate would have it, there was a woman making balloon, not animals, but let's just say, it being Vegas, they were a little bit on the lewd side. And of course, my buddies were all too happy to point me out as a potential target for this balloon. So I want to show you the picture, if I may, of the balloon. It's safe for Toastmasters. It's okay. Let's see if I can show this. Can you guys see that?
No.
Now, as balloon animals go, I would say that's a little bit on the elaborate side. So yes, I had a pole dancer balloon deposited on my head. And the best part is they made me walk down the strip from Flamingo to Planet Hollywood, and I never got a look from anybody, it being Vegas. So there you have it, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for sharing, Mark. I appreciate that. And Eric, there's Eric. Now you're like half my age, Eric. I don't remember the first time I had balloons. Do you remember your first balloon encounter? It probably wasn't that long ago, but any balloon stories from Eric?
Where do I begin? Well, I always watch those episodes of SpongeBob for Free Balloon Day, but I don't know, does that count? First time I ever encountered balloons, with parties, as like Mark just showed. Hey, Mark, if you still had that balloon head, I'll try it on for you. But
I left it at Planet Hollywood, Eric.
oh, you left that Planet Hollywood? Okay, I had to go to Florida to pick that up then. Okay, moving on. Anyway, I can't recall when the last time I encountered balloons. I was probably just at a very young age. I'm sorry to all the, nope, I'm not gonna go there because I will get shot. No, just kidding. But anyway, balloons are always fun, except when you're sucking the helium out of it and your voice goes up a little high. I have done those before. Does anybody else have done that before? I think some of you guys have sucked the helium out of those balloons and talk real high. But that can be dangerous, so my advice, don't do that. So, but thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Like I said, it's been years as I did use balloons as a child. So thank you.
Thank you much. I don't know if it's same in New York, but we have a balloon shortage here because of the helium. We got the balloons, you just can't get them filled up here unless you buy the whole kit. Can't even go to a regular store and buy balloons anymore. Somebody's stealing all the helium. With that, let's go ahead and start with our evaluations. And first up is going to be Jackie Kenny evaluating Dave Licata.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I regret that due to the confusion, I didn't read David's speech purpose: to mentor my fellow club members on how to source information for a speech. I think he certainly did that. He gave us the impression that he was winging it, but I noticed he had some notes. And he gave us some wonderful suggestions for creating an exciting, compelling speech, pulling things from our daily life, our experiences, our environment, so that we could come up with something when we need a topic. You never have nothing. There's always something that you can come up with. I think the only reason David needs to improve is to stop being a curmudgeon. His tendency to curmudge sometimes deflects from what he's talking about. I do think this speech would have lent itself to moving the lectern and giving us more gestures and more facial expressions. But all in all, I think it was a wonderful lesson in what we can do as Toastmasters to come up with something on the spur of the moment. Anything that went on yesterday, what you did last week, a place that you visited, you can always come up with something. There's never a reason to be panic-stricken when you're on the schedule to give us a speech. You can always come up with something. And I think David gave us plenty to think about this morning, sources and experiences that can help us talk more about our daily life and come up with something rather than nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jackie. And next up is Toastmaster Jen. Jen, we've got about 10 minutes that we're ahead of schedule. And when I look at your background, I just think, is there a cat in your wall? Have you, as a new homeowner, experienced any other issues other than cats in the wall?
Oh, I'm sure I've experienced plenty of issues. I mean, I probably have like 12 speeches lined up. If you're looking for a speech topic and Dave's speech didn't help you, come on over and I can start you off on a few. But there are no cats in my wall, so that's the good news. That's the good news. Lots of improvements happening, and someday I'll give a speech and show you pictures. But at this point, I'm going to start off on my evaluation of Joe. Joe gave his icebreaker today from the engaging humor pathway. So it was exciting to see Joe get started in pathways. And Joe brings a lot of great skills. I know he is an experienced Toastmaster, but it is great to go back to those fundamentals and really look at how we as Toastmasters are developing our skills. Joe is actually great at changing his tone and volume for emphasis. He does that throughout. It's part of his speaking style, and I think he does an excellent job when he's trying to emphasize a point. I think overall, Joe seems very comfortable at the lectern, and he did actually really know his material. He gestured well when he started telling some of his stories. However, there were times at which Joe was looking down at his notes quite a lot. Now, interestingly, he glanced down so quickly. I know he couldn't have possibly read anything on those pages, so I think he was using them more as a boost to his confidence, perhaps. And I think he would have done better if he had left those notes at his seat or not brought them up to the lectern at all. Because like I said, Joe knew his material. He knew what he wanted to say, and he was telling his story quite well. So I would either suggest leaving them off completely or perhaps finding another way to cheat in terms of your notes so it doesn't look like you are distracted and glancing down at them. Because when you started getting into your stories and you weren't looking at your notes, you were making really great eye contact, you were gesturing very well, and your tone and your emphasis were supporting your ideas. So I think that was really great. Overall, I would say in terms of improvement, what I would try to do to strengthen your speech is work on your structure. So I think you had a frame for your speech and you were trying to make these points and support them with your stories. However, there was some part of it that was lacking. So either tying back or really emphasizing that frame, referring back to the frame through each of your stories, how it was supporting, the uses of humor. You told the stories, but something was falling away. And so I think there was a part where I was not necessarily connecting to the message that you were trying to give us. So I would consider really focusing on what the message is you want the audience to take away and strengthening that frame even more. You had it in place, and I think you were almost there, but that's what I would suggest for improving the speech even more. You have all the tools and you gave us a great speech today. So thank you, Joe. And I will turn it back over to David.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jen. Appreciate it. And our third evaluator is Mike Licata. And Mike, I want to see if you'd like to share a story about possibly dropping a water balloon or throwing a water balloon at your dad and his reaction to anything like that. I'm sure he wasn't a curmudgeon about it, but just want to hear your story.
We never really got into the water balloons. We never made it that far. We usually just messed with, we never made it to the balloon part because it would always end up in a fist fight between my brother and I before we actually got to the balloon part. We just squirt each other with the hose and something usually ended up being broken. So we never really made it as far as balloons, but we also had some pretty good water fights as kids growing up. So that's my balloon story this morning. Good morning again, fellow Toastmasters and our guests, and especially Sylvia. Sylvia, I have to give you a lot of credit this morning with your speech because it was a lot to present. I think you did a very good job moving the lectern back and bringing over the easel board and to do it low tech. I would like to think that a lot of people online got to see the slides that you decided to use this morning. So I have to give you a lot of credit for that in terms of showing off where Tremont Street is and presenting the information that you have for the proposal for the permanent housing you guys have established. And I want to congratulate you on the project because I can't imagine trying to do all these things within the last 2 years, and I want to congratulate you on a successful project. Some of the things that I would change about your speech, or if you go back and look at it, is you have to be more aware of where the camera is. I know that it's a different proposal. When you gave it originally, if the person was, most of the people are going to be in the room. But with AM Lockport, because we have the camera and because with the easel out in front, you made everything a little bit tighter. So I noticed you ignored the camera a lot. You kind of have to acknowledge the people online along with the people in the room. So I would encourage you to work on that for your next speech. I would also rely less on your notes. There was a lot of information that you presented. But I also noticed that goes on to the speech looked very, very busy because you were looking at your notes, you were trying to flip the easel, and you kind of got lost with the people online. So I would just say do that. I slow down a little bit as well. The Q&A was unnecessary, and I understand that you wanted to do it because you're worried about time. But one of the things that even as an experienced Toastmaster like yourself, I encourage people not to really worry about the time. I understand we're all looking for the green light. We're all looking to make sure that we came in with the time. But as we grow as Toastmasters, we become less worried about the light and more worried about
making sure we present the relevant information. So I think your speech felt a little bit overstuffed in that way too, with the Q&A. Yeah, those are really great questions and you came very prepared for answers, but I would avoid overstuffing the speech just to make time. But I want to congratulate you again for a successful project. And I want to congratulate you on moving up in your next path and good luck on your next speech, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Licata. Appreciate it. And can we get a timers report one last time?
I'm glad to report everyone made time. Jackie at 2:13, Jen at 2:49, and Mike at 3:08.
Thank you, Madam Timer. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our general evaluator, Tracy. And Tracy, if you'd like to call on all the roll keepers when you're done with yours, that'd be great. Otherwise, I can do it.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'll call on the roll holders. I'm going to start off with my evaluation of the meeting. David, you did a great job. You talked about balloons, and I was so worried. I was like, where are we going to go with balloons? But you actually turned it into an interesting topic. I'll talk about each of our evaluators. Our first evaluator was Jackie. We'll talk a little bit also about the meeting in general. So I believe the speaker's job is to prepare their speech. Evaluator's job is to prepare for that evaluation, and that begins the night before. I'm not blaming Jackie for this because this was the 11th hour change, but the speakers should put their speeches on the website. It's a great tool that we have that Toastmasters put out. That should be put on there. The evaluator should follow up and get that information on there. Jackie didn't have that information, but she did a wonderful recovery of that. She had some really good points about Dave and being on the lectern, up here at the lectern and hiding behind the lectern. When we're in hybrid, it's a little bit difficult because we have this small little space and we're losing that time when we used to be able to walk around friendlies and not use our notes and so forth. So it's a little bit hard, more difficult. We're going to have to learn how to do that here and get back to be able to pace the room and make contact with our audience. So she did an excellent job at that. The one thing I would have added to that is have Dave come up with a stronger ending. It was a discombobulated speech a little bit, and he could have brought it all together with a strong ending. Jen did a great job. That was an excellent evaluation, and she pointed out Joe's strong points, and it was really interesting because that will build Joe up, but he does have some really strong points in his speeches. And she also pointed out how some of the stories were disconnected, and bringing them all together at the end. I thought that was an excellent point. Mike, you did a great job. This is one of your better evaluations. I always hit you up for these run-on sentences, and you started off your evaluation as a big run-on sentence, and every sentence ended with but as the evaluation went on, you stopped and you breathed. You were becoming more relaxed. So the end of your evaluation was a lot better, and I hope you continue on with that. That is my evaluation of the meeting. I will start with the roll masters. Can we get Nancy to talk about the ahs, ums, and then follow up with the grammarian report?
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm having a little bit of a problem. Okay, so as far as ahs, ums, and all master or ah counter, there's only a few. I did get a little picky because it was my job. So I'm going to say a few from David Licata, one from David Jones, One ah from Marty, a couple ahs from Sylvia. One ah from Mark, Eric, a couple. Great. I think it did very well. It was very smooth. As far as grammarian, it was excellent. Like Tracy said, Mike had a couple run-on sentence, but great self-correction for the run-on sentence to get your point proven. And the only other thing I could come up with was some clever, let me see, doing my ums right now, so I'm counting them in my head. I would say a lot of people that had any past tense or present tense, they self-corrected very quickly, so nothing interrupted the flow. And there are some great metaphors, such as Joe, pin up the kid's toes in the ceiling and use them as a piñata. It gave you great visuals, as well as dribble jabble bounces gave great visuals, whether they're used appropriate or not. It was great for the speech, as in Dave Licata. And the word of the day was used as a noun from Nancy, and also an adjective, a noun describing people, and an adjective, curmudgeon your ears, listening to curmudgeon your ears. So I thought that was pretty clever. So all in all, I think everyone did excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And Kate, can you tell us about the Tech and Jester Masters of the Day?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I didn't notice anything that stood out drastically. I love that Sylvia went right forward with using the good old-fashioned easel and didn't send the slides. We do send the slides, if we can, over to Len by the Monday before the meeting. If it doesn't happen, she was ready, like on backup, I'll use the printed forms. Thank you, Mike, for covering that. I would encourage you to use, I do the same thing and use the handheld microphone all the time, but the more I pay attention to this role of Tech and Gesture Master, the more I do see the freedom that using the headset microphone gives us as we're speaking, because you could have embraced using your hand gestures more, pointing at your visual aids. I thought that it was great, though, and it's really cool to hear about that project. I thought that most folks used the microphone and the visuals very well today. We're really grabbing onto that microphone, adjusting as needed. Certainly our Toastmaster, David, modeled for us a fantastic use of his studio and the technology that he's been practicing with what he's been practicing. It really shows. And I love to see that presentation style. I didn't notice anything else standing out drastically. So that's good and bad, I suppose. So nothing were big blips, not blimps, but blips on our day. I find balloons fascinating. I love to hear about old stories about hot air balloons used in espionage or just used in the earliest days. I love hearing about blimps and all the dangers and excitement that those kinds of technology caused. I love watching the Disney Pixar movie Up that you showed. I love so many things about balloons. I hate that they're so bad for the environment. Whatever you do, just throw your balloons away. Don't let them go, and don't just let them hang out anywhere. The ribbons, the strings, the balloons can cause damage to both people and animals. So just dispose of them properly, please, and don't do balloon releases anymore. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Kate. I was wondering if somebody was going to bring up the environmental concerns of balloons. I'm going to follow up with Quizmaster Nancy.
Thank you, Tracy. I always love to hear the general evaluator's perception of the meeting and see if it's similar to mine. I just enjoy, sort of, yeah. It was, very much so. A quick balloon story. I think it was Table Topics was asking, oh no, I think it was Tom, asked what kind of projects you could do with balloons. And it reminded me when I was in 7th grade, I was invited to a party, and it was a theme party, not Batman, Joker, and I had to be the Joker. Help me. What was it, Batman? Okay. That's how interested I was in the theme. So I was assigned the Joker, and I had to look it up because I really wasn't interested in that kind of thing. So I made a balloon mask the night before the party. You take a balloon, you make a paper mache mask, and in order to make sure that it wasn't flimsy, I made it very thick, and I had this big nose on it. And when I was ready to go to the party, it was still wet. So we put it in the oven for a little while to try to dry it out. It smelled, it was terrible, and it weighed about 10 pounds. That was one of my craft projects. Today, we talked about balloons in many ways and some other assorted interesting topics. Margot's son requested water balloons from what summer camp? It was a Jewish summer camp. Lakeland, Camp Lakeland. According to Dave Licata, when you got nothing to talk about, where can you find the best topics for an inspiring speech? Library. Library, where else? Life in your own home. From what Pathway series was Joe Budnick's speech? Engaging with humor. Whose mom baked chocolate chip cookies for our meeting today? I give mom a. Let's see, where is YMCA's brand new permanent housing located? 49 Tremont in North Tonawanda. And when is the ribbon cutting? Next Thursday, right? What cartoon character was featured in the first Macy's Day Parade? And when was the first when were the first water balloons? Okay, yes, 1950. And hot air balloons? 1790, I believe it was. Okay, great listening. And I will turn it back over to Tracy.
Thank you, Nancy. I'll tell you a small story about my dog and water balloons. He loves balls and he loves to chase them, but he hates water. So if you throw a water balloon, he just chases after that. It lands right on top of it and the water spurts all over. And the dog never learns. He does it over and over and over again. And I'm going to follow up with our word master, Gerald Stevens. Can you tell us how the word went for today?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I think I am the last report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Word of the day did pretty well, actually. Marty used it, Kate used it, Nancy Fair used it twice, Dave used it once, Joe used it once. Jackie was the overall winner with 3 times. I accepted all versions, correct or incorrect, just because it was for fun. But I do have a balloon story as well, since we have time. In this case, it's a hot air balloon. Some of you may have heard the speech before, so I'll try to make it a little more abbreviated. So back in the day, the wife and I, at the time, fiance, we went up to Thousand Islands and we decided to do a balloon flight. I did not know that when you do one of these balloon rides, hot air balloon rides, that they make you participate in the whole thing. So you have to actually help them unload the balloon, the basket. You have to help them with the fire. They light it up and you're holding it to the side. It was 2 couples, a French couple and us. and they're a little more afraid than we were apparently. So we're holding it to the side and then it actually went upright. And then we got in and we're floating across the land, and you can actually reach down and grab the leaves from the top of the trees. So that was a trip for sure. And you could see far and wide for sure. They have a chase car that follows the balloon because they don't know where the hell it's going to land. They can barely direct the thing. This is how he was describing it. And the guy who was in charge of it, he told us all those disaster stories of crashing balloons. I don't know if that was to make us laugh or prepare us for a crash. I really was unsure about that. So that other couple was pretty nervous about it. So as we're about to land, he's like, "Oh, you look pretty calm. You stand on the outside." I'm like, "Stand on the outside? We're about to land? Sounds great." So as we land, the wind kicked up and they were bounce, boom, 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 a couple times. It didn't tip over. No one got injured, but I thought, well, I really kind of need these limbs and arms to work tomorrow. So I'm glad I didn't break anything. But in the end, it was really picturesque and fun, and I do recommend it. So if you haven't had a chance to do that. And it ended up in a farmer's field. They give you permission to land there. And the reason for that is because they bring champagne and a lunch, and the farmer brought a big truck full of his kids. So probably about 8 kids came out and they raided all the food. So that was the price for being able to land in the farmer's field. So there's plenty of farmland up here. So I think they have those kind of things locally as well. So at this point in the meeting, I'd like to announce the winners. So for table topics, we have Dave Licata. Have a ribbon if he would like it. There you go, Dave. Oops, sorry. I'll do that for you.
I have a brief.
Oh, he has an addendum to his table topics.
No, it's just a situation. It just dawned on me because this applause is inconsistent. So we're all sitting out there. When the person enters the shot, then applaud, rather than while they're trekking back and forth. I think it'll make more sense to our Zoom audience just to, hey, a little idea. I'm sorry.
Okay, I like the idea. Consistency is a good thing. And our best evaluator today is a tie, Jen Zappa and Mike Licata. Right, stepping up. We do have a ribbon if Mike would like it. And we don't have a virtual ribbon for Jen, unfortunately, but in spirit. So, thank you. And our best speaker for today is Sylvia Baptiste. Come on up. She is good without a ribbon, she's, I believe, or maybe not. She's coming up. So, sneaking up here between the equipment. I hear you. Smart. Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. We probably have a few announcements today, and we have, yes, grab your 50/50 first. Thank you so much. The speaker usually grabs that, so Sylvia will grab that and pick our winner. And if it's nobody, it's probably me. My ticket's on the, I see. Our winner is 406. Who's the winner today? Is that Sylvia? Hey, look at that. She picked her own. I do believe we have a few announcements today. Eric, would you like to make an announcement? I know you have one that I'm aware of, and Kate probably has another. Is Eric still with us? I don't know. Eric doesn't look like he's still with us, so I will say it. We do have a past and present officers lunch at the New York Beer Project this Saturday. The time of that is noon.
Noon.
Thank you. Memory didn't fail me. And Kate, do you have another announcement for an event coming up after that?
I do. I actually, since it's 8:24, okay, I'll share 2 things. First, and I'll do this in chronological order. So there's something some of you've heard about, but some of you haven't. This Saturday is what you were just describing is the officers luncheon at the New York Beer Project. That's 12 to 1:30. If anybody who are members feels like coming Afterwards, we could linger for another drink or something. You're welcome to come at 1:30. I don't know if anybody will take us up on that offer, but come on out to the New York Beer Project. It's pretty central for most of our membership. On Sunday, something really exciting is happening in Lockport, that it's the 24th annual thing that you never heard of, because it's always on a Sunday morning, and Lockport's rather a ghost town on Sunday mornings. And so this Sunday morning, we have the privilege of hosting almost 800 cyclists from around the state, the country, and the world for the Cycle the Erie Canal event. The Erie Canal runs from Albany to Buffalo, and these cyclists are biking from Buffalo to Albany at about 50 miles a day, and they're passing through the communities and tenting all along the way. It's coming together that we should be hosting them better. And so there's an initiative to make that happen. So this Sunday morning, I would love some help. We're making it kind of like a party for the morning, 9 to 1, when these cyclists are coming through. Some of them will stay for lunch. Some of them are doing the locks cruise on the boat with a picnic lunch. Some are just biking on through to Medina, but they get lost when they're trying to see the locks or get down to the boat or get back up for ice cream or coffee. I'll be right where the farmers market is held, near the gazebo area, and I could use your help to add to this party atmosphere and help these cyclists learn about Lockport or know where to go, where to lock up their bike, where to go to the bathroom, where to grab a coffee, etc. I'd love your help. And so please reach out to me. I'll send out an email about that. It's not specifically a Toastmasters event, but if you'd like to wear your Toastmasters shirt and talk up Toastmasters, feel free, of course. And then the other event maybe that Gerald was mentioning, it's already next Saturday, 716 Day is coming up, and I'll send an email about that as well, to go to the Botanical Gardens and or the Shakespeare in the Park, anybody who wants to do either or both. And we're extending the invitation to the full division A. We're doing a lot more collaboration this coming year, and I'm the Area 13 director. And so we're going to invite all of Division A, which includes several of the areas, 11, 12, 13, 15, and we're going to celebrate Buffalo, celebrate ourselves, celebrate the summertime. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Back to you.
All right, thank you. We also did receive a thank you note from Ron Franco for everybody who came to her wake and or funeral. So thank you, Toastmasters, for that, and God rest her soul, certainly. Any other announcements? Who is the Toastmaster next week, Len?
Mike Florio.
Mike Florio, and how is the schedule doing? Schedule is online. So those of you who don't know that, such as myself, you can go online and look at the schedule and prepare for your next speech. And you could also prepare just in case there's an availability for a speech. So you're ready to go. I know that is a recommendation that Phil Russell gave me when I was a young Toastmaster. So do that so that just in case we're ready to go and prepared. That is all I have for today. Enjoy your day. Meeting adjourned.
Good job, David. You did a good job. Reined it in. Reined it in.
You guys have any ideas for initiatives?
Sure.